At 7:42 a.m., I was fired by email. No warning, no meeting, just a PDF. They thought I'd walk away quietly, forget the system I spent 6 months building. What they didn't know was that I built something else, a digital memory that remembers everything, including every lie they told. I'm Thomas Vale, 49 years old, Director of Systems Integration for the past 8 years. I was holding my coffee mug, same one I'd used every morning at 6:30 for 3 years. Black coffee, no sugar. The email was 3 paragraphs of corporate speak. Restructuring initiatives, operational efficiency, moving in a different direction. I was fired. No meeting, no phone call from HR, just an email with a PDF attachment explaining my severance package. You know what the strangest part was? I wasn't surprised. The Denver office buzzed around me. Open floor plan with frosted glass partitions, everyone wearing noise-canceling headphones pretending to collaborate. The morning light hit the windows at exactly this angle every day. I'd built something here, something important. A resilience platform that logged operational patterns, flagged inefficiencies, automated recovery from service disruptions. 6 months of 16-hour days. MIT training and 20 years of IBM consulting experience poured into every line of code. But I'd added something extra, something they didn't know about. Event traceability. The system didn't just remember errors, it remembered the hands behind them. The signs had been there for weeks. Mark Loden, our CEO, started using phrases I'd coined in my technical briefs. Operational resilience architecture. Predictive failure mapping, words that had never come out of his mouth before March. Then the project got renamed, publicly, before launch. My name disappeared from the internal memo announcing the rollout, just vanished, like I'd never existed. HR started acting different too. My Q1 performance review got delayed, then rescheduled, then quietly forgotten. Should have seen it coming. I opened my terminal. Muscle memory kicked in. 2 keystrokes brought up the secure logs. I copied everything to an encrypted partition, used a passphrase only I would remember. My daughter's middle name, the year we moved to Colorado, the day my father died. The backup finished in 43 seconds. I closed the File Explorer, opened my email client, hit reply. Received. That's all I wrote. Then I closed the laptop. The office kept humming around me, keyboards clicking, coffee machines gurgling. Nobody looked up. Nobody noticed that the man who just saved their company had been erased with a single email. Mark was probably in his corner office right now, preparing for the board presentation next week, the one where he'd demonstrate his revolutionary system. He'd stand up there with his PowerPoint slides and talk about innovation, leadership, vision. He'd take credit for every algorithm, every fail-safe, every elegant solution I'd crafted during those late nights when the building was empty and only the security guards knew I was still here. But here's what Mark didn't understand. Systems architects think differently. We build layers, redundancies, safeguards. We plan for failure. I sat there for exactly 60 seconds, watching the clock on my screen tick forward. 7:44 a.m. became 7:45 a.m. Then I packed my personal items, coffee mug, MIT diploma, a photo of my daughter from her college graduation. Everything else belonged to them. I walked toward the elevator. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody even looked up from their screens. The elevator doors closed. I'd spent 6 months building the system that would save this company millions of dollars in downtime and lost productivity. I'd created something beautiful, something that would work flawlessly for years. But I'd also built something else, something they'd never see coming. The doors opened on the ground floor. I stepped out into the Denver morning. The air was crisp, clean. For the first time in months, I smiled. I didn't feel rage. I felt precision. Back at my desk, I moved with the same methodical calm I'd used to debug 10,000 lines of code. Personal items went into one box. Company equipment stayed behind. The office was emptying for lunch. Perfect timing. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a single USB drive. No label, no marking, just black plastic and 8 gigabytes of storage. I plugged it into my workstation. 30 seconds later, I unplugged it and left it sitting on my desk next to my monitor. Someone would find it eventually. Someone curious. The drive contained exactly what they'd expect from a fired systems architect. Personal files, family photos, old project documentation. Nothing suspicious at all. I carried my box to the parking garage, set it in my trunk. Then I drove home and did something I hadn't done in 8 years. I took a nap. When I woke up at 4 p.m., my mind was clear, sharp, ready. Time to dig. I opened my laptop and started with the basics. Public financial filings, board meeting minutes, SEC documents, all of it available online if you knew where to look. First discovery, the CFO had resigned 2 months ago. Jennifer Walsh, 15 years with the company, solid reputation. The resignation announcement was brief. Pursuing new opportunities. Corporate speak for something went wrong. Why would a CFO leave right before the launch of a revolutionary system? I kept digging. Q4 vendor contracts. New partnerships. There it was, buried in a filing from a contract with Resilient Dynamics, Inc. for a comprehensive operational monitoring solution. My blood went cold. They'd signed a deal to buy the exact same type of system I'd just built, for 3 times what it cost them to pay my salary for 6 months. Here's the thing about corporate fraud. It always leaves breadcrumbs. I spent 2 hours following the trail. Board presentations, budget allocations, timeline discrepancies. Then I picked up my phone and called Naomi Kim. Naomi was mid-50s, razor sharp, and the best compliance attorney I knew. We'd worked together when she was in-house at the SEC, back when I was consulting. "Thomas, long time, eh?" Her voice was cautious, professional. "I need to show you something. Can we meet?" My office, 1 hour. I encrypted the log files onto a secure drive and drove downtown. Naomi's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Denver skyline. She poured 2 cups of coffee and gestured to the chair across from her desk. I handed her the drive. She plugged it in and started reading. Her expression didn't change for 10 minutes. Then she looked up. "You built a recorder." "And they didn't know." I nodded. "Thomas, this isn't just about stolen credit." She scrolled through more files. "Your CEO wasn't just taking your work. He was covering his tracks." She pointed to the screen. "Look at these productivity numbers. The ones reported to investors last quarter." I leaned forward. 40% improvement in operational efficiency, but according to your logs, the actual improvement was 12%. The room went quiet. "And here," she clicked another folder, "QA warnings on the integration with the legacy billing system, all deleted from the official records, but your system captured them." My chest tightened. Bonus calculations. She kept scrolling, tied to false launch metrics, inflated performance data. You want to know the worst part? It all made perfect sense. "If this hits the SEC, it's securities fraud," Naomi said quietly. "If it hits the board and they discover they approved false information, that's perjury." I stared at the screen. All those late nights, all that work. I'd built something to protect the company from system failures. Instead, I documented corporate crime. "What do you recommend?" I asked. Naomi closed the laptop. "You have 2 choices. Walk away and pretend this never happened, or prepare for war." I thought about Jennifer Walsh, the CFO who'd mysteriously resigned, about Mark Loden standing in boardrooms, presenting my work as his vision, but about that email at 7:42 a.m. "I need 2 copies of everything," I said. "One for a lawyer, one for somewhere else." Naomi smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. I know exactly where that second copy should go. That night, I sat in my home office preparing the files, metadata intact, timestamps preserved, chain of custody documented. Two identical packages. One would go through official channels. The other would find its way to a very specific, very silent Dropbox. Mark thought he'd eliminated the problem by firing me. Instead, he'd eliminated the only person who might have warned him what was coming. The logs were complete. The timeline was airtight. The evidence was irrefutable. Mark Loden had no idea what he'd just unleashed. Sealed the first package and wrote an address on the label. Then I prepared the second one. No return address on that one. Some packages are meant to arrive quietly. The SEC filing went out at 6:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. Anonymous whistleblower report, complete metadata, timeline documentation, every fraudulent number cross-referenced with my system logs. I used a secure portal and a VPN that bounced through 3 countries. The submission confirmation appeared on my screen. Report received, case number assigned. That was step 1. Step 2 happened 30 minutes later. I created what Naomi called a cold memory package. Every log file, every deleted warning, every manipulated metric, encrypted with military-grade security. Then I uploaded it to the company's internal ethics hotline, Signature Architect 1. They'd figure out what that meant eventually. But I wasn't done. Here's something most people don't know about employment contracts. They're full of clauses nobody reads. Legal boilerplate that sits dormant for years, until someone who understands systems decides to activate them. I pulled out my original employment agreement, 8 years old, 47 pages of dense legal text. Page 32 had exactly what I needed. Stock redemption clause. If fraud is discovered during separation proceedings, the company triggers an exit penalty provision designed to protect shareholders from executive misconduct. The beauty was in the timing. I'd been fired yesterday. The fraud investigation would officially begin today. I'd filed the paperwork electronically, one more anonymous submission, one more legal tripwire. Mark had no idea what was coming for him. The first crack appeared Thursday morning. Internal memo leaked to the company Slack channel. Routine audit procedures. Compliance review. Temporary suspension of certain reporting activities. You could almost hear the panic spreading through the office. Friday brought the second crack. Quarterly investor call. Canceled. Rescheduling due to administrative requirements. Stock price dropped 6% in 2 hours. Monday delivered the third crack. Board meeting agenda released. Mark's name wasn't on it. For the first time in 3 years, the CEO wouldn't be presenting to the board. That's when my phone rang. Thomas. Naomi's voice was tight. We need to talk now. I met her at a coffee shop downtown. She looked like she hadn't slept. I found something, she said, about Jennifer Walsh, the former CF. The one who'd resigned mysteriously. She didn't just quit, Naomi continued. Mark forced her out. Under threat. I leaned forward. She'd flagged your system months earlier. Wanted to run additional compliance checks before launch. Mark told her to drop it or lose her job. The pieces clicked into place. Your logs captured everything, Naomi said, including her original flag. There's a voice memo from February. She documented the whole conversation with Mark. Jennifer Walsh had tried to do the right thing. Mark had silenced her, just like he'd tried to silence me. Where is she now? I asked. Phoenix, working for a nonprofit. She's been keeping quiet for months, afraid of retaliation. I thought about the woman who'd spent 15 years building her career, forced to choose between her integrity and her livelihood. Mark had made that choice for her. I'm sending her the logs, I said. Naomi nodded. Anonymously? Of course. That afternoon I prepared a hard copy package. No digital trail, no metadata. Just paper documents and a simple note. Ms. Walsh, you are right to flag this. The evidence is attached. Do with it what you think is best. A former colleague. I mailed it to her Phoenix address. No return label. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from Naomi. She contacted her legal team. They're filing a wrongful termination suit, with your logs as evidence. The trap was closing. Mark thought he'd eliminated 2 problems by firing Jennifer and me. Instead, he'd created 2 witnesses with nothing left to lose. I sat in my home office that evening watching the news reports. Investigation underway at Denver-based tech firm. SEC probe into financial irregularities. Stock price continues decline. My system was working perfectly, even better than I'd designed it. It was recording everything, every panicked email, every deleted file, every attempt to cover tracks. The beauty of automated logging is that it's invisible. People forget it's there, they act naturally, they make mistakes, and every mistake was being documented in real time. Mark had built his house of cards on top of my foundation. He'd used my work to commit fraud, stolen my credit, and throw me away like garbage. But he'd forgotten something important. I'd designed the foundation. I knew every beam, every support, every weak point. You want to know the difference between revenge and justice? Revenge is emotional, impulsive, satisfying in the moment, but ultimately hollow. Justice is systematic, patient. It builds on itself until the weight becomes impossible to bear. I'd built a system that remembered everything. Every transaction, every decision, every lie. And now that system was working exactly as designed. Mark thought he'd fired his biggest problem. Instead, he'd activated it. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Naomi. His lawyers are asking for meetings. They want to negotiate. I smiled and typed back, too late for negotiations. The system had taken over now. It would run its course with mechanical precision. All I had to do was wait. The headline broke at 11:43 p.m. on a Wednesday. Whistleblower logs reveal CEO misconduct at Ardent Systems. Denver Business Journal, front page of their website. The story had everything. False financial reports, deleted safety warnings, bonus manipulation tied to fabricated metrics. They'd gotten hold of the logs. I read the article twice. Every detail was accurate. Every timeline matched my documentation. Every quote from anonymous sources painted the exact picture I'd intended. Mark's house of cards was collapsing in real time. By Thursday morning, the SEC had opened a formal investigation. Securities and Exchange Commission confirms probe into Denver-based technology firm following whistleblower allegations of financial misconduct. The press release was clinical, professional, devastating. Stock price opened down 18%. Friday brought the board's response. Emergency meeting, closed session. Then a statement that ended Mark's career in 2 sentences. The board of directors has requested CEO Mark Loden's resignation pending completion of ongoing regulatory review. CFO Jennifer Walsh has been asked to return in an interim capacity. Jennifer was back. The woman Mark had silenced was now running his company. Justice has a sense of irony. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Naomi's number. I let it go to voicemail. Thomas, call me back. Something big just happened. I called her an hour later. His law firm just withdrew representation, she said. Hartwell and Associates, 20-year relationship. They sent a letter yesterday. Why? Conflict of interest. They're representing someone else in the investigation now. The silence stretched between us. Who? I asked. Jennifer Walsh? The law firm that had protected Mark for 2 decades had switched sides. They'd seen the evidence, read the logs, calculated the odds. Smart lawyers always know which way the wind is blowing. By Monday, Mark had vanished. No statement. No farewell email, no final board presentation. His corporate bio disappeared from the company website. His LinkedIn profile went dark. The Denver tech community is small. Word travels fast. Mark Loden is finished. Did you hear about Ardent Systems? That CEO who stole credit from his own team? Hear the whispers. Read the speculation. Watched the stock price crater day after day. But I didn't participate. No social media posts, no comments to reporters, no victory laps. I read everything and said nothing. The investigation expanded. Federal prosecutors got involved. The board hired outside counsel. Former employees started talking to journalists. Every day brought new revelations. Most of them traced back to my logs. The system I'd built to protect the company was systematically destroying the man who'd stolen it. You know what the strangest part was? I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no sense of triumph. Just the quiet certainty that systems work exactly as designed. Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Vale, this is Kevin Chen. I worked on your team as a junior engineer. I left Ardent last month. I wanted you to know. I always knew you were the brain behind everything. Thanks for finally setting the record straight. Kevin, quiet kid from Stanford, brilliant with databases. I'd mentored him for 6 months before Mark fired me. He'd figured it out. I typed back. Build good systems, Kevin. They remember everything. More messages started coming in. Former colleagues, vendors who'd worked with my team, engineers from other companies who'd heard the story. We knew it was your work. Mark never understood the technical details. Everyone in the industry knew you were the real architect. The validation felt strange, distant, like reading about someone else's life. I'd spent weeks planning this outcome, months building the evidence, years creating the system that made it possible. But now that it was happening, I felt detached from it. The man who'd been fired by email at 7:42 a.m. was gone. The man who'd trusted his CEO to give credit where it was due was gone. This version of me was different, colder, more careful, more precise. Thursday brought the final blow. Former Ardent Systems CEO Mark Loden, under federal investigation for securities fraud. The headline ran in every major business publication. The story had gone national. Mark's photo appeared next to words like embezzlement and corporate malfeasance. The system he'd claimed to create was described as groundbreaking work stolen from a terminated employee. My work, finally attributed correctly. But I wasn't celebrating. I was already thinking about the next system, the next problem to solve, the next company that might benefit from someone who understood that technology isn't just about code. It's about remembering. And I remember everything. Friday evening, I sat in my home office reading the latest coverage. My phone was silent. The house was quiet. Mark Loden had lost everything, his job, his reputation, his freedom probably. I'd lost nothing but illusions. The difference between us was simple. He'd built his success on lies. I'd built mine on systems that couldn't lie. 3 weeks later, I sat at my oak desk at 6:30 a.m. The house was quiet. Morning light filtered through the blinds at the same angle it had every day for 8 years. One item sat on the desk in front of me. My original project sketchbook. Paper, not digital. Old-fashioned engineering graph paper bound in black leather, the kind you can't delete or modify remotely. I carried this notebook for 6 months while building the resilience platform. Every algorithm sketched by hand first, every database relationship mapped with pencil and ruler. Old habits from my MIT days. Think on paper, code on screen. The first page contained my initial system architecture, drawn in blue ink on a February afternoon when the project was just an idea. That sketch had become the foundation for everything that followed. I opened the notebook carefully. The binding creaked slightly, pages yellow with age and coffee stains. There it was, page 1, the original vision, clean lines, simple boxes, elegant connections between data flows and user interfaces. The work of a man who believed his name would appear on the final presentation. I tore out the page slowly. no rush. No anger, just ritual. I walked to the kitchen and found a small ceramic bowl, white porcelain. My ex-wife had used it for sea salt when she cooked. I placed the page in the bowl and lit a match. The paper caught quickly. Blue ink dissolved into gray ash. Pencil lines vanished in small flames. That version of myself, the man who trusted too much, who believed corporate promises, who thought good work spoke for itself, was gone. Burned away like everything else that no longer served a purpose. I watched until only ash remained. Then I walked back to the kitchen and made coffee. Same routine, same mug I'd used for 3 years. But this time, I added cream. Just once. The coffee tasted different, softer, less bitter than I remembered. Change happens in small moments. A fired email at 7:42 a.m. A decision to document everything. A choice to add cream to black coffee. Systems evolve. People adapt. The smart ones learn from failure. I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. 3 new job offers in my inbox. Word travels fast in the Denver tech community. Systems architect with proven track record in enterprise resilience. Seeking senior engineer with expertise in automated monitoring. Confidential opportunity for experienced platform developer. They all wanted the man who'd brought down Mark Loden, the whistleblower who'd exposed corporate fraud. But that's not who I was. I was the man who built systems that remembered everything, who planned for failure, who understood that the most important code was the code nobody saw. I closed the laptop and finished my coffee. Outside, Denver was waking up, traffic building on the highways, office workers heading to their desks, the same rhythm that had governed my life for 8 years. But I wasn't part of that rhythm anymore. I was something different now, something more careful, more precise, more permanent. Systems remember. So do I.